You are listening to the ERP, Organizational Change Journal, a podcast brought to you by Nestell and Associates.
My next question for you, Stephen, this caught my attention, and I wanted to ask you about this one, but this was called Culture and Consistency, the Keys to Agile Development Success. And this was by, I believe, one of your coworkers. The article says, quote, software development can be complicated. Projects can start to go off the rails, and it's not always from lack of effort, ability, or experience. So what role would you say, Steve, does organizational culture play in successful software development?
Oh, it's very important. If you go back to what I was talking about with product teams, right? So if that product team has to have its own culture that is owned by that team, that everybody on that team is on board with that culture, with what they're going to produce and why are they producing it and why are they there. And that is a lot that's driven by that Scrum Master, right? As this team goes, what are we going to end up with? And then they're also taking that cue from, let's say, the organization itself, of what that organization North Star is, or multiple North Stars or whatever, right? So the key thing is for that team all to be working together. If you have different components within that team, let's say one's just trying to see how much they can get done and not worried about that user experience, and then another, someone else on that team is like really looking at that user experience and challenging, there's going to be conflict. That's where that Scrum Master really fits in. It's like pulling everybody together as a team, how they have to, and getting everybody involved. So, your user groups in there constantly working with those teams, and it all gets around that whole concept of that product team. Working together with the same culture, the same core values of what they're trying to get done. Yeah. I think that's kind of probably where she's going with that, at least from what I can take.
Yeah, I agree. And I especially think, when I think of culture, I think of it exactly as you just said. Core values is one of the, I guess, attributes is having alignment and sharing core values is critical. But organizational learning is another one. Sharing the same goals and objectives and having the common vision, being willing to create change and accept change and to take on some risk. Team orientation, right. There's just a lot of attributes that are included in this idea, this kind of abstract idea of organizational culture. And right. I think it's a very powerful idea, especially when it comes to transformational change and change acceptance.
And take that. So I'm talking about a product team, right? So it's a team of like 8 to 15 people, right? It's not big.
Yeah.
Now take that whole culture concept, and this goes to your world, to the ERP side of things, right?
Yeah.
So you have, let's say you take my county example, right? You have the sheriff's office, you have the Department of Transportation office, you got all these various groups all having different thoughts and objectives and agendas and how to bring those guys culture. I mean, that's some of the challenge of ERP, right? Is how it's easier to do in a software development side. That's why I have this whole thought that you separate the components out and you let them go individually parallel and bring them together at the time that's appropriate when they've said we're done. Right. Yeah. We have this custom product developed successfully. Everybody's using it. It's working great. Boom. We're done. But that's a whole nother story. I mean, we can go forever there, but it is culture. Like I worked on this large project for a big manufacturing firm, multinational, huge firm. I worked directly with the CIO as the project manager over the whole project. And he had the greatest concept that I've used to this day. So this was back in, it's like maybe early 2000s. And I still think of this. He just broke it into 4 quadrants. And if you're looking at it, the top left quadrant, right, is the most important. Then the second to the right on the top is the second most, and then bottom, whatever. His top left quadrant was people. Mm-hmm. That was his main focus. And then when we ever talked to the business, like we would have regular scheduled meetings with business, like status report meetings and different other meetings, we always were talking about the people of that company and where are they at with things. Not just the people on the project team, just in the different groups, in the different business departments. Are they ready for this? Do they have knowledge of this? So as a project manager, because he was driving it from that side, I was hyper focused on working with the department leads, the VPs of each department or whatever, to say, okay, where are we at with your people? What kind of training we need to do? What kind of, and I was just constantly working on that side. On the bottom right corner, the least important of anything within that entire project in his mind was the technology, the system.
Yeah.
So it's like the tech guys are going to get it done, right? That's just money and time, right? We're going to get that done. But it's the people, process, and then he had data. So, I mean, I keep that quadrant still in my head when I think about ERP these days. So,
well, that's a great way to think about it. I agree. In fact, I couldn't agree more.